Are you someone who is struggling to keep their expenses in control and not able to save enough to meet their financial goals? Then this video is for you. I'm CA Vijay Kedia. In today's video, I'm going to share 5 important tips which has helped me to keep my expenses in control and to save for my financial goals. So with that, let's start. The first thing you need to do to control your expenses is to track your expenses. So if I ask you how much you are spending every month, and if you are not able to answer that question, then probably you need to start with that first step. Because unless you know what is your monthly expenditure, you'll not be able to identify where you are spending more and where there is a scope to reduce it. And so it's very important to track your expenses. So people will ask like, how do I track my expenses? What tools do I use? So it need not to be very complicated to track your expenses. So the way I track my expenses is by having two separate bank accounts, one for expenses and one for my emergency funds and investments. So you can divide your salary into two different bank accounts, one where you can use to pay your rent, EMIs, credit card bills, UPI payments, and things like that. And in the other bank account, you can have your funds parked for your emergency expenses or any investments which you are planning to do in future. You can park that fund there, and preferably you should open that account within bank which is giving you a slightly higher returns, and so you can keep your liquid fund there. And in the other bank account, since all the expenses will be going out from that particular bank, it will be easier for you to track how much you're spending every month, and that will give you a good insight on where you're spending more, where you're spending less, and and that will help you in identifying the things which you can improve. The second point I want to talk about is about minimizing your fixed expenses. You should be able to identify what is your fixed expense, what is your variable expense, because things like EMIs, rent payments, school fees, or any other subscriptions, they are all fixed expenses because they are long-term commitments. Once you make that commitment, you will have to continue paying that amount for a very long period of time. So you need to be very careful when you are getting into any agreement for any fixed expenses. So if you are taking a house on rent, you need to decide that whether you can really afford that house considering your other expenses and the investment goals. If you are taking an EMI, that EMI is not impacting your investment amount. So, and similarly for the school fees, subscription. So we always aspire for the best thing in life, but that does not mean that we'll keep adding more and more fixed expenses to our budget, and that will be very difficult to control. To control fixed expenses, you need to think very carefully while getting into that commitment, because it will be very difficult to change it later on. So, for example, if you're living in a house where you feel the rent is high, you may not be able to change it later on because there is a moving cost, there is a additional work in the moving your houses, and then similarly, if you are buying an expensive car, the EMI is high, and then you need to continue paying it. So those things, it will be very difficult to reduce once you commit to those expenses. I should always think twice while committing for a fixed expenses. So that will help you to keep your overall household budget in control. Now let's talk about the variable expenses or your day-to-day expenses and how to keep them in control. So the rule you need to follow to minimize your variable expenses is compare. So you need to compare whenever you're buying your grocery or your other day-to-day expenses, whether you're buying offline or online. You need to see that you are getting the best possible price. You need not to do it for every smaller purchases, but even major grocery purchases or any major day-to-day expenses, you need to see if you're getting a best possible price. Because remember, every convenience has a price. So if you are ordering from a quick commerce like Zepto, Blinkit, you are always paying the higher price compared to, say, if you are ordering from a Flipkart grocery or a Big Basket for a later delivery, right? So if you're getting something immediately and at your convenience, you'll pay premium for that. So you should avoid paying that extra premium for your convenience. Plan your grocery, plan your other purchases, and then see what is the best possible price you can get. Because if you buy something as and when you need it, you'll have to pay a premium for that. Even for your day-to-day variable expenses, you can minimize it by use of credit card. So yes, so normally credit card is not considered good because you can get into debt trap and things like that. But the credit card is a very useful tool if you can pay that entire amount at the month end and use that cashback which they are offering. For example, I have Amazon credit card for any shopping I do from Amazon. I have Flipkart credit card for any shopping I do from Flipkart because I get 5% of my spending as a cashback. Similarly, whatever purchases I do from Swiggy, whether it's Swiggy food ordering or Instamart, or I use Dine Out, everywhere I pay from a Swiggy credit card, and there I get 10% cashback. And so that's a very good way to get some additional discount on your day-to-day purchases. And if you add up that entire saving for a year, that's a very significant amount, right? So you should also see if you can use the credit card to your advantage, right? Not to the credit card company's advantage, but to your advantage, and which can help you to save some extra money. The third point I want to highlight is about impulsive buying. So say you go out on weekend and then see something which you really like, and don't decide to buy that thing immediately or out of impulse. Take your time and see if you really need it, if it fits your requirement, and is that something you want to have and which you're going to use it on a regular basis. Then sure, go ahead and purchase it, but don't make those decisions on impulse, because that can cost you a lot of money. Even if you're saving on your regular day-to-day expenses, but you make one impulsive purchase in a month, and that can eat up your entire saving. So don't be like a penny wise and pound foolish. So hold on to your impulsive purchases, think twice, and then decide if you really need that thing, and then go ahead with your purchase. Now let's talk about the expenses on vacation. So everybody loves vacation, and we need to take vacation to avoid burnout and to recharge yourself to get back to work. But do we really need to spend that much for a vacation? Because it's better to take multiple with the same money instead of spending that entire vacation money on one vacation. So the thing which I suggest is that if you're taking a vacation, see how you can minimize that expense for that particular vacation. So for example, flights are expensive, and then you spend a lot on taxi, and so can you travel by car? That saves you money. You get an experience of a road trip, and that will save a lot of money, because taxis are expensive, especially at the tourist places. So that's all adds up to your expenses. So that's like one example. So that's something which I do to minimize my expenses. So apart from your travel expenses, there is also an hotel expenses where there's a lot of scope to minimize. So when you travel, do you really want to stay in that expensive hotel, or you can cut it down by taking an Airbnb or some place which is comfortable, safe, but not that expensive? Because when you go on vacation, you go for an experience, and you spend most of the time outside hotel. So it does not make sense to spend too much money on hotel itself. Instead of that, you can spend that money in exploring that place. So I think that's the better use of money in my view. And third suggestion I want to give is to avoid traveling on long weekends or in very peak seasons, because you end up spending more, the rates are high, and at the same time you don't get that experience because everywhere is so crowded, right? So plan your vacation, take those additional leaves, and see that if you can travel in non-peak or seasons and avoid that long weekends, so that you get a better experience, and at the same time you can minimize your expenses. And last but not the least, the point which I want to highlight to control your expenses is the alignment with your partner. Sometimes people complain that my partner is not aligned on my saving or spending habit, and so we are not able to control our expenses. So my suggestion is, talk to your partner and discuss what is your financial goals, how much saving you need to do for that, and how much should be your household budget. Because unless you discuss, both of you cannot be aligned that where you can spend, where you cannot spend, and without that it would be very difficult to control your expenses. So this is a very important aspect and which is not often discussed. So these are the 5 tips I wanted to share with you based on my personal experience, which will help you to reduce your expenses and increase your savings. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Do share with your friends and family and subscribe to the channel if you have not done already. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.